If you're a fan of the channel, you've been watching me for a while, you know there are some things that just grind my gears. They drive me nuts. And I'm going to talk about 5 things today in comic books that are driving me nuts. Some of them are petty. Some of them are new. Some of them are old. Some of them are big-time issues within comic books that are just driving me absolutely insane, and they need to stop. That's what they need to do. And I want to hear from you guys. What is driving you nuts in comic books today? Put it in the comment section. If I get enough responses that are really awesome, we'll do a top 5 what's driving the audience nuts about these sons of bitches. It's mostly DC and Marvel, but certainly there's some issues with indie books in there as well. But these are the things that are absolutely making me lose my mind on comic books, starting out with number 1, super dumb comic book names. You know, back in the day, you know, you had Spider-Man, you had Batman, you have Iron Man, you have the Avengers, the X-Men, really good classic names, Amazing Spider-Man, stuff like that. And now everything has to be this weird, stupid, convoluted thing. Like you can tell it's supposed to be a goddamn Netflix pitch or some type of book title that they turn into a comic book title. A comic book title probably doesn't need more than 2 or 3 words to it. It's gotten absolutely ridiculous in so many ways. You've got falling in love on the path to hell. It sounds like, I don't know, some type of romance comic. Fine. It's supposed to be a romance comic. I think it's not. I think it's some type of sci-fi action book. What is falling in love the path? Like, shorten it up and find something cooler. If Jerry Duggan named the Star Wars movie today, it would be A New Hope Dawns Under Two Suns. And you'd be like, fuck, that doesn't sound nearly as cool as Star Wars. How about The Rocketeer Breaks Free? The Rocketeer Breaks Free? Fine title, but it's not. It's The Rocketeer : Breaks Free. What does the breaks free mean on that? That's not a subtitle. That's like an action associated with the fucking noun. Are you kidding me? The Rocketeer Breaks Free. You don't need a colon. It makes me want to spew out of my colon. It's so frustrating when you get these stupid names. And DC is absolutely the worst right now. DC From the Vault, or From the Vault DC. I don't remember what it is, but that's the first title. Then it's Death in the Family, so you know that it's associated with an old story. And then Robin Lives. Multiple colons. DC From the Vault, Death in the Family, Robin Lives. Why can't it just be Robin Lives? I think we will get it once you show the freaking cover art, and then it basically looks like it's in the Death in the Family story there, in the worst one. And I'm definitely going to read this book, and I'm excited for The Last Halloween. Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween. Come on, can we not just call it The Last Halloween? We're going to figure out that it's an actual sequel to The Long Halloween. Can you imagine if they did it now? It would be Batman, The Long Halloween, Dark Victory. It's just Batman Dark Victory. Stop treating us like we're freaking stupid, man. Marvel isn't nearly as bad at DC about this right now, but Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider, does piss me off. Why does it have 2 of her freaking nicknames in the title? What are we going to do with, like, Superman, Man of Steel, Big Blue, number 4? Come on, just give it a fucking title. Pick Spider-Gwen or the Ghost Spider. They've been trying to push both names for years now. I don't even know what the character's superhero name is at this point. And the worst one out there, and this is probably because it's associated with a video game or something like this, I'm going to have to read it. Armory Wars, Good Apollo, I'm Burning Star 4, Volume 2. And that's not the entire title, because every issue, I think, has a fucking subtitle on the end of it. We're getting to beyond ridiculous proportions. And I understand when people do movie titles, it's got the title of the original movie with the subtitle underneath it. But we don't need to do subtitle. And if you're going to have a subtitle, it should be something that can stand on its own, not Breaks Free. If something was called Breaks Free, would you want to read it? I mean, these names are getting ridiculous. They're getting stupid. Netflix has not only ruined the pacing in comic books, it's ruined the fucking naming convention in the comic books. And movies have obviously destroyed comic book titles as well. I understand it's petty. It's probably not a big deal, but it pisses me off. I have to go through all the stupid solicitations for DC, Marvel, and indie books on the Patreon exclusive. There's a link in the video description. And I have to see all these dumb names. Get back to 3 words. The fucking Walking Dead. That shit works. Saga, it works. You don't have to come up like explaining your concept in the title itself. Let the comic book artist help sell the book for it. You come up with a catchy title and you have a really cool visual on the cover itself that says this is what you're getting. It's a horror book with a fucking monster. It's a superhero book with a man that flies. You don't have to call it Superman the Flying Man Returns to Earth. Like, you know what I mean? I can't be the only one losing my mind over so many absolutely ridiculous, freaking stupid comic book titles these days. I'm fed up with it. Next up, retconning character origins. This is something that's been going on for a very long time, and certainly you can do it in a very successful manner when you think about The Winter Soldier with Captain America and Ed Brubaker, where you introduce some aspects that we didn't know were happening at the time, and it becomes out to be really compelling. Or you can do stuff like what Tom Taylor does when he goes back and retcons the origins of a character. And we're getting promised that in Detective Comics under Tom Taylor, he's going to go and he's going to retcon Crime Alley and the death of the Wayne family with Bruce Wayne as a little boy. And we're going to find out that there is actually a homeless gorilla in Crime Alley that got his hand on one pearl from Martha Wayne's necklace. And he's been looking at this pearl for 80 years now and obsessing about it. And he's going to become the Pearl Gorilla. And he's going to be killing people by stuffing pearls in their mouths or something dumb like that. Stop going back to the exact origin of the character and trying to add new stuff in there. They're already overstuffed. They've been recontextualized so many times. And when someone like Tom Taylor does it, it ends up being absolutely dumb. He went back and retconned the origin of Dick Grayson in his Nightwing series. Now Dick Grayson has a half-sister that's the mayor of Bloodhaven. Has it added anything to the story itself? No, absolutely not. It hasn't made it more intriguing or interesting. In fact, it's just made the universe smaller. Or what's the other thing he did? All of a sudden, there was a boy that was picking on Barbara Gordon when Dick Grayson was young, and he intervened, and that boy grew up to be Heartless. Did this make Heartless a more compelling villain? Did it add any layers to the character? It just added layers of bullshit, of meaninglessness that you had to explain in there, where you could have been doing something cool, like, I don't know, having Nightwing try to stop Heartless the entire time. You get innocuous, really stupid shit like that from Tom Taylor. Or on the other end of the spectrum, you get stuff, obviously, like Jason Aaron's Punisher run, where he goes and he says the origin of Punisher isn't when his family died. It's not even when he was in Vietnam. The origin of the Punisher was actually when he was 6, and he's been a serial killer all along. Recontextualizes the Frank Castle character and destroys it in the process because he's so destructive. There are far too many new creators that are absolutely destructive with these characters, and they always have to go back and retcon the origin of the character. What did Tom King do when he went back to Batman? All of a sudden, you've got Bruce Wayne as a kid trying to murder himself, trying to commit suicide, while Alfred watches on and doesn't intervene. It didn't add anything to the character, and it only made Alfred look like a piece of garbage. When you see that scene, I still am pissed off about that. He goes back to not really the origin of Mr. Terrific, but certainly an earlier story of Mr. Terrific. Now he was happy when his wife died and she was pregnant because he was so relieved because he wasn't ready to be a father. It makes Mr. Terrific a less compelling hero, less heroic hero. That's a weird thing to say for any man, let alone somebody that's supposed to be a superhero. Stop going back and retconning the character origins. They're there. They exist for a reason. You can go and revisit them to remind people that they exist, but stop going back and changing them. Stop adding stuff to it because you need your new fucking self-insert character to have existed the entire time that Batman existed. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's infuriating, and it almost never adds anything of value. Yes, sometimes you do get an Ed Brubaker, but he's a genius, and we don't have a lot of geniuses in comic books right now. Another thing that's absolutely grinding my gears, pissing me off, this has been going on for a while now, the bait and switch art thing. Mostly being done at Marvel Comics. They're definitely the worst perpetrators of it, but certainly DC Comics have had their fill of doing this stuff as well. One of the big selling points of X-Men #1 from Jed MacKay, not so much was Jed MacKay that it was Ryan Stegman who was going to be on the art, and he's going to be the ongoing artist. What did we learn? That he's not really the ongoing artist. We've got Netho Diaz coming in, at least for issue #4, and it sounds like he's going to be doing a lot of the art on X-Men moving forward. And Ryan Stegman was one of the draws. He's one of the guys on the fucking marquee that's supposed to bring people in there. If you don't want to pay Ryan Stegman to do at least 6 issues, then don't put him on the book. They do this stuff a lot. Remember when Pepe Larraz, I think it's kind of still going on right now, he doesn't illustrate anything ongoing. He shows up for the first 2 or 3 issues of something they know is going to struggle, and then he walks away, maybe does a miniseries, does a bunch of covers, and then he shows up to do the first 2 issues again. The worst example being not exactly completely recent, but recent enough. Remember the return of Wolverine, Charles Soule, when Charles Soule was still somebody I think at Marvel Comics that people liked. Maybe his Daredevil wasn't great, but he hadn't done anything too stupid yet. He'd come off his Darth Vader run, and we got the return of Wolverine. He's been gone for, 7 or 8 years or something like that. Steve fucking McNiven on Wolverine. Yes, please. Every day of the week, I will take Steve McNiven on Wolverine. You get that first issue. You get some stupid stuff in there. You get the Hot Claws, and I think we're all glad that we've memory dumped Hot Claws at this point. I don't remember if we get P.F. Chang's Wolverine in the very first issue or not, but it looks good, and it's awesome. What do we get in issues 2, 3, and 4? Declan fucking Shalvey. Are you kidding me? It's like going from a masterpiece work of freaking Wolverine art to stick figures at that point. And it's just like the biggest turnoff. Like your fucking comic book stiffy just goes completely flatulent. You're just like, I'm sorry, not flatulent. Your comic book stiffy goes completely flaccid, and there's nothing to be excited anymore, even if the story is still good, because you've downgraded so greatly in the art that it's not even funny. It's one of the biggest turnoffs in comic books. They do it all the time. There's so much bait and switch when it comes to the art. And a lot of times with the cover art itself, you look at all those, Fantastic Four covers, and Fantastic Four actually has some pretty good artists on. I like Carlos Gomez and some of the other artists, but they don't even remotely resemble what Alex Ross does with his art style. And it's just, it's very, very frustrating. Marvel continues to do this, and Stegman obviously is the latest example of it. DC is not immune to this. This is something DC Comics also do. The best example from DC that I can think of was the New Age of Heroes. Remember that? All these new heroes, coming out of the Dark Knight's Metal event. They weren't all new. Certainly the Terrifics, Metamorpho had already been there. Certainly, Plastic Man, Mr. Terrific, they'd already been there. We got some recurring heroes, but they were supposed to have awesome artists on all the books, and they did have awesome artists on all the books. I don't think one of them lasted more than 5 issues. Notoriously enough, Jim Lee lasted half an issue before he left and put somebody else on there. And a lot of the times it didn't even make sense. I think Tony Daniel did the Silencer, and he was really good. But I thought Victor Bogdanovich might have been better, or was at least as good. Why didn't he just start the book? Obviously, when we got Kenneth Rockefort on Damage, I believe he's the one that did Damage. And then we had Kenneth Rockefort, I think, on Damage. And then we had Aaron Lopresti come in. Not exactly a downgrade. Aaron Lopresti is great on characters like that. Why not just start out with Aaron Lopresti? I understand that maybe at the time Kenneth Rockefort was a bigger name on the headline, but there's no reason for the bait and switch. If they're not going to stick to the title and do more than 5 issues, why fucking put them on the book? It gets very frustrating, especially when these are supposed to be really big, origins and characters that were supposed to be around for a long time. Unfortunately, a lot of them lasted. We got Silencer for a while. We got the Terrifics for a while. I think we got Damage for quite a while too with Robert Venditti, but most of those characters didn't really even last 12 issues. It sucks because it gives people a reason not to invest in your new idea. It gives people a reason not to believe you when you're selling your new idea based on the creative talents associated with it, because you're always baiting and switching people, especially on the art. And I understand not every artist can maintain an ongoing series, but then again, maybe you shouldn't announce that artist for an ongoing series. Or you should announce, hey, they're coming in as the special guest artist to do one arc, and then they're leaving. People are going to be fine with that. You tell me that Steve McNiven is coming in to do one story arc of Wolverine, I'm all for it. Just don't have Declan Shalvey be the other Wolverine artist, because he sucks so bad, really in comparison to anybody working at Marvel or DC, including Riley Rossmo. And you know how I feel about that guy. Another thing that's absolutely pissing me off right now, superhero families gone wild. I like legacy characters. Dick Grayson's one of my favorite characters. I love Wally West. I like a lot of the legacy characters that are out there that have been introduced and been kind of sidekicks and then came into their own. And it's cool to have superhero families. I'm great with the Green Lantern Corps. It makes sense for them to be big. It doesn't make sense for them to have so many, human lanterns and all that kind of stuff. And I don't mind 2 speedsters, but we've gotten to the point where there's like 40 speedsters. We've gotten to the point where I think there's 9 human lanterns. The thing that was unique about Hal Jordan when he was selected was that no human lantern had ever been selected before because they didn't think humans were ready for it. If you want to have 2 or 3, okay, but we're up to the point where we got, what do we got? We got Alan Scott, we got Hal Jordan, John Stewart, Guy Gardner, Kyle Rayner, Joe Mullins, Teen Lantern. There's an Asian one in there as well. Jessica Cruz, Simon Baz. That's at least 10. You've destroyed the concept, and that concept in and of itself makes sense for it to have more than one character like with a title, but not so many of them. But then when you get to like the Superman family, guess what is coming out of Absolute Power? Lois Lane is becoming Superwoman again. Please, you got to stop doing this. They did the same thing with Spider-Man. Now MJ is jackpot. Sometimes a love interest or a wife is just a love interest or a wife. Not every fucking side character in DC Comics or Marvel Comics needs to have a goddamn superpower. You're ruining the uniqueness of the heroes themselves. How is Peter Parker Spider-Man even unique at this point? How many fucking Spider people are there? There's Spider-Man, there's Miles Morales, there's Arancha, there you got the fucking Spider-Man and India, Spider-Punk, Spider-Boy, Spider-Girl, Spider-Woman. Like, it gets beyond ridiculous to the point where you can maintain something called the Spider-Verse. You got fucking Spider-Ham in there, and you treat this shit like it's serious, but all you're doing is serious damage to the fucking heroes, and it's gotten so out of fucking control. And every time they bring one of these non-talented fucking brain-dead retards in to write the book, they're like, well, there's not a fucking Batman character that exactly represents me. I'm going to make a new fucking Batman or a new Robin that represents exactly what I think should be in there. And it's mind-numbingly stupid. There are too many Robins. There are too many Flash. There are too many Supermen. There's too many Spider-Men. There are too many fucking symbiotes. We're even putting symbiotes on superheroes that exist at this point. I don't know why Black Widow needs a symbiote. In fact, if you go read that one book, I don't remember the name of it anymore, but Erica Schultz wrote it. It explains exactly why she doesn't need it. She's like, I don't even need this. I'm going to have to train the symbiote to be as good a fighter as me. We have too many Captain Americas. We have too many Ghost Riders. And I know I just said I was going to read Hellhunters. I'm a hypocrite. I get that. But at some point, somebody's got to have a fucking clue and be like, come on, guys. We got to do something better than this. It's getting ridiculous. It's repetitive. And we're ruining the fabric of all the heroes that fucking make these universes and heroes important. Like, it's redundant, it's repetitive, it's stupid, and it's time for a culling of the herd. If we don't get out of Absolute Power with all the other side characters just fucking wiped out, they've missed an enormous opportunity to make a great impact on Marvel and DC Comics to make it better. Get rid of all these fucking extra legacy heroes. It's gotten too far out of hand, but I'm still going to read Hellhunters because I'm a goddamn hypocrite, and I know that. It's part of who I am. I'm complicated, people. Stop judging me on this one. The final thing I'll talk about here, I am absolutely fed up with all the limp dick anthology milestone celebrations that they're claiming that they're releasing these days. Recently, we got Poison Ivy 25. The only person that's written Poison Ivy the entire time during this run is G. Willow Wilson. Not my favorite writer, but she's done a pretty decent job. We get to issue 25. It's a lot more money. Do we get more G. Willow Wilson? No. In fact, we get far less. The first 4 pages are G. Willow Wilson. The last 4 pages are G. Willow Wilson. And then we get a full-length story from Joanne Starer, someone that, to my knowledge, has never even written a Poison Ivy comic book in their life. There's a couple other names there that I didn't even recognize. And I was like, how is this a celebration of what Poison Ivy is or what G. Willow Wilson has accomplished in the Poison Ivy series? It's not. It's just them going ultra cheap. Remember when they were doing all those like DC Comics 80th anniversary celebrations, obviously following up on Action Comics 1000, Detective Comics 1000, where they brought in a lot of the heavy hitters. Obviously, you had the current ongoing writer in there, but they brought in people that had made real contributions to those characters. and then they would bring in like one new voice to do a shorter story in there. And I think that was a great setup. When you get into like even Wonder Woman, like you've got Greg Rucka, I think you got Gail Simone, Vita Ayala, the best story that she's ever written. But they were putting some money and effort into those celebrations, those milestones. And now everything is a milestone, and they don't even try anymore. Recently, we got like an Iron Fist milestone. It's supposed to be an Iron Fist book. We get one page of Heroes for Hire from Frank Thierry, and it's like a little commercial or something. We get a short story from Chris Claremont that really has nothing to do with Iron Fist, which was disappointing to me. And then it's like, let's have this longest story in the book be Alyssa Wong, who wrote the Iron Fist story, not even with Danny Rand, that got canceled in 7 issues. Like, what are we even doing here? And they're just like throwing names in there of like the cheapest people possible that have had zero impact on the character. Like they haven't even written them. And these anthologies are absolutely awful. The Marvel Comics like celebration of giant size has been awful. It's like 16 pages, maybe if you're lucky, more like 12 pages of news story, and then it's reprints, and then they're charging $8 for it. If you want to charge me $8 for a celebration, if you want to charge me $6 for a milestone comic book, put some fucking effort into it. Stop going so limp dick on the creative teams and actually do something to celebrate the characters. Like, it's getting ridiculous at this point to where you don't even want to read it. Why are you charging me extra money for a book when the writer isn't even adding anything to it? There's a little bit at the beginning, a little bit at the end. And these anthologies, they used to be something that Marvel and DC did very well. They were never as popular as the ongoings, you know, with the solo titles or the team up book titles and stuff like that. But they were good. You got some really cool stuff in there. You know, Marvel Comics Presents had awesome stuff in there. Marvel Team Ups had awesome stuff in there. Brave and the Bold had awesome stuff in there. And what they're presenting these days, Brave and the Bold is a great example. Like, it's just not worth the money. They don't know how to do anthologies anymore. And at this point, just stop. You suck that bad at it. Stop doing anthologies at all. If you want to do a celebration comic book, just make it a double-size issue with whatever the current writer is doing anyway. Boom, 2 birds, 1 stone. You got 2 issues out or whatever. Because you're not celebrating anything. You're just making people very, very frustrated and ripping them off for money that they work very hard for. And those are the 5 things in comic books that are really grinding my gears, that are pissing me off right now, that are driving me nuts. I want to hear from you guys. What is pissing you guys off? What have you had enough of from Marvel and DC, or maybe even any comic books? What are they doing to you that's petty or stupid, but you need to get it off your chest? If we get some type of consensus, I'll definitely do a video on it. If you would like more awesome stuff like this and support me here on Think Critical YouTube, the place to be is Think Critical Patreon. You support me there. We have lots of extra stuff, lots of bonus stuff in the form of podcasts, extra videos, polls, all that stuff there. If you haven't checked it out, there's a link in the video description. I hope to see you there very soon, and I'll be in a much better mood next time.